welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. We are back again for episode number 184. I'm your host tonight, and my name is Shorty, and I have just one bean on the line again. Cracker, how's it going, mate?
Good. I'm pleased we get to record.
Well, about 4 hours ago, I was not recording because it's been a little bit stormy in Melbourne over the last few days, and my area's been absolutely destroyed again, as tends to happen when you live up in the hills. And I haven't had power for the last few days, so had been told that power wasn't going to be back on until Saturday, and then got home Thursday 5 o'clock. The power had just come back on, so pretty happy. And the internet was working as well. That was the biggest shock. I thought, we'll get the power back, but the NBN will be out. But no, all up and working, and turns out I can record a podcast, so it's pretty good news.
Chewy can't though. He's in a caravan park.
Yeah,
he's just run away from his house entirely. So good luck, Chewy. Hope the power comes back on sometime next week for you.
Yeah, the joys of living in the hills. We've spoken about it before. It's just the sacrifices that we make for when we're in this beautiful area, but there is a lot of trees and overhead power lines. So there's a reason why in new estates, which I spend most of my time in for my work, they put all the power underground because it's just a lot easier. You don't have to worry about all that sort of stuff. I saw a photo today of an actual, like a power pole that's just completely snapped in half.
Wow.
That's like, goodness me.
That's insane. It's interesting because like where I grew up in Hobart, most of the power's underground as well.
Yeah, okay.
And has been since like for forever, you know.
Yep.
So it's interesting that Tassie, I don't know if they're advanced or they just were so far behind that they fell in front again. But
it took long for them to get electricity that it's like, okay, we finally got electricity. Well, everywhere else is starting to do this underground power.
Put it underground.
Maybe we should do that. Yeah. I mean, every house, like Chewy knocked down and rebuilt his house a few years ago. So whenever you do that now, your power now goes underground.
Yeah.
So you have to pay to get a power pit put in, and then your power goes underground to your house, all that sort of thing. So they're slowly trying to phase it out. But it's just a ridiculous amount of work to change a whole bunch of above ground power to below ground, especially in the area that I live in, where it's all rocks and hills and nowhere to put them underground.
Not nice digging in that area.
No. Anyway, last episode we were talking about the weather, and
listen, we live in Victoria. I mean, what do you expect? This is what we got to talk about here.
Yep.
I tell you what, we do have to talk about a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of magic things.
We do, yes, we certainly do. We've got lots of things to talk about tonight. Big shout out to Chewy, as you said. He is living in a caravan park at the moment just to have power and internet and all that sort of stuff. So would have liked to have been on the podcast, but can't be here tonight. But we're going to hold down the fort and talk about a few things. But before we get into that, we should shout out our awesome sponsors. So take it away, Cracker.
Josh and Pats, you know them, you love them, we love them. They just gave away stacks of cards. Pat just loves giving away cards, man. Super Bowl, he gives away stuff, and then for the new set, he does it. There's been all the claim lots for the murders at Karlov Manor. I got it right.
Yep, that's right.
I had to think for a second there. It's Pat, Facebook auction page, nightly auctions of all sorts of fantastic physical magic cards. They've got claim lots, like I said, for when the new set drops, so you can just say how many you want. And then there's also the just effectively buy it auctions, or not auctions, you can just say mine and it's got a price on it, which are always really fair. And then there's the actual auctions as well, with the premium auctions on the weekend, which are always a lot of fun to see, power and original jewel lands and other reserve list cards and all sorts of fancy foils and stuff going up there. So go check them out, JPMTG Bazaar. And if you win something, tell them that the Bean sent you.
Very good. Yeah, it is nice to see all those fancy auctions and things that I'm never going to bid on.
4-digit magic cards.
Yeah. Maybe if I won that $200 million last week, that would have been nice.
Exactly. Would have been all right.
I could be a full-time content creator. That'd be nice.
I'd be a full-time not working at all person is what I'd be doing.
Just full-time playing games.
Yep.
Sounds like fun, and having a very large magic collection. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. All right. So, a few things to get into tonight. mostly we're going to be talking about Modern. We haven't played... Well, we've played a little bit of Modern, but we haven't talked about Modern for ages.
Feels like forever, man. Yeah.
And there's a bit of Modern been going on lately because there's been Modern regional championships where people are qualifying for a Modern Pro Tour that's coming up in the next few months. So we thought we'd go back to Modern, which is kind of where we started as the Beans. That was our favourite format. And have a good chat about that and see what's going on in the format. But before we get into that, a couple of things. You and Chewy played some Commander on a stream last week.
I did.
It was not a Magic Beans stream.
I know. It felt a little weird.
What was that?
What also felt weird was it started really early.
Yeah, it did.
We were live at like just after 6, and I was like, oh boy. But it was great. We hung out with the guys from Commander the Gathering. So Franken and Fresh, people we've known in the community for ages, years and years now. We've been talking to those guys, but haven't played with them much. So it was really cool they invited us on to come hang out, and we played some kind of low to mid power level decks. It wasn't anything crazy. They had some like no infinite rules, which was kind of cool. No Shorty is it deck nonsense going on. So Chewy brought goblins and I played Merrin. And then Franken had, he had one of the new precons actually, the Boros precon, which like goaded creatures and stuff like that. It was really, really strong. Seemed like really good. Just straight out, like he literally played it unsleeved. Like he pulled it out of the box and he ran out of time.
Just playing it raw.
Yeah, just playing it raw, which was pretty funny. Yep. And then Fresh was playing the Saltire Frog enchantment themed deck. So that was one that he'd built. And yeah, no, it was just a good time, man. We just hung out and played, a big long game, and everyone kind of got to do their thing at different points. So it was a good time.
Nice. All right. So I think they're streaming Commander every week.
They are.
And then they put them up on YouTube. So if people want to find them, where do they find them?
Commander the Gathering. We'll put a link to all of their stuff in the show notes, but it's Commander the Gathering is their Twitch channel. And if you're in the Beans Discord, you'll see them in the self-promotion channel when they go live. It pops up in there letting people know what's going on. So go check them out. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. Very good. All right. Well, another little thing before we get into Modern. This popped up literally while I was making my cup of tea before I came to sit down to start recording. A little article popped up on Twitter. A little bit of an announcement from Wizards, and I hadn't seen this before, but it's just popped up from this week. So apparently, Chris Cox, who is the Hasbro CEO, who was previously the head of Wizards, and then got promoted to Hasbro CEO. He's the one that everyone blames for all the layoffs and all that sort of stuff. He's come out and announced I think it was in a call this week, that as of 2025, they will be printing two Lord of the Rings style Universes Beyond crossover sets. 2 per year going forward. No details on what that means in terms of legality, what that means in terms of potentially replacing standard sets. Who knows? But strap in for a whole lot of full crossover sets over the next, probably forever.
Oh, man.
As of next year. So obviously the Lord of the Rings set was hugely popular. I think it's their highest grossing set that they've ever done.
Yes, easily.
Yeah, just made them a stack of money. Was very, very popular amongst the community and collectors and, just random other people. So as Wizards seems to do, they go, oh, this thing worked. Well, let's just shove a whole lot more of that down everyone's throat. So I don't know how to feel about this. When I told you about this, Cracker, your reaction was so upbeat.
Oh, I
could just feel the excitement down my headphones.
It just radiated from me. I'm known for... So I just... Lord of the Rings was like the perfect crossover, right? Like it's that intersection of like everyone loves Lord of the Rings. If you're into any kind of fantasy kind of game, I don't know how you couldn't be. And then it's just the perfect thing. And now what do they think they're going to... Shorty, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla at the moment. I've just started. The game's okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's all right so far. Pretty cool. I don't want 260 cards of Assassin's Creed, man.
I don't know how you could do that either.
We're going to find out. There's going to be 11 different types of hidden blades, and there's going to be 4 different types of Ezio's hood, and I don't know what they're going to do, man. I am skeptical. And the other question is, given Lord of the Rings was a print to modern set, what are they doing? Is this in addition to 4 standard sets as well? Or is this going to replace, you said, it's just going to replace a set or 2. Like, well, then you've got like 2 standard legal sets in a year in a 3-year rotation.
Yep. Which is fine. We'll end up with the same number of sets in standard as we've had previously. They're just there for longer.
That's just, like I said, that sounds just awful.
Yeah, it's not going to make standard stale at all when it's, this standard set's come out and there's a whole bunch of broker cards and the next standard release is in 6 months.
Okay, thanks, Spike. By the way, it fits in really well with our annual bannings.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. This choice feels weird.
I don't know either.
I was on board with like more small Universes Beyond stuff. There was the Fallout one that's supposed to be coming out and things, and it's going to be like supplemental small sets, like straight to modern, but not the Lord of the Rings was what they called the tentpole, right? Yeah. The main set holding up a full quarter was the primary release, and I don't know which IPs they can just keep wheeling out to do that for.
No, I don't know either. Like, I mean, there's definitely some you could do. Like, they've done the 40k, Warhammer 40k, that was just commander sets.
Sure.
They could easily do a Warhammer Fantasy full set.
Sure.
Like, there is as we went through with the 40k fluff episode, there is a lot of IP there that they can use. Yep. We know that they've got Marvel stuff coming up, and they have said that that's going to be multiple sets. So I would expect next year we get 2 Marvel sets, and then at least 1 more the following year. And then if they can, like, obviously Marvel's a huge world as well. There's a lot you can go in there. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Star Wars crossover at some point. Like, there's a lot of big IPs that they could fill out 2 sets a year from, just like picking one of those IPs and then doing 2 sets through that year. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that with
Universes Beyond block constructed. Let's go. Everyone's favorite format's back. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Like, I don't know.
Me either.
That's okay.
That's all we can say for now because we have no more details than that.
Pretty much.
We'll wait and see. I mean, they did release the schedule of sets that's coming out all the way into like 2026, not that long ago.
Yeah,
but
they did.
It was like the next year of sets was locked in, like each quarter set or whatever, and then beyond that it was like, we've got these couple of sets coming up.
Yeah, correct.
So they didn't give the full schedule. But interesting article, and not surprised to see Wizards just trying to get as much money as they can out of everyone, because that's what they do.
That is definitely the MO.
Yep. All right. Well, speaking of things that cost a lot of money, let's get into modern.
Let's get into modern. Hang on, before we do that. We played Sealed on Monday.
We did too.
Yeah, you and I streamed
before my power went out. Yep.
Yeah, before your power died, we streamed Sealed. We got a couple of the pre-release packs from Pat, and so we cracked them the day before and built decks, and just everyone's like, "Oh, Cracker's deck looks sick," and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna die," and I did. I died. I think it was like
crushed
5-0 or something. It was ugly. My deck was very powerful. Once, and it was,
and then you still didn't win that
game.
It
was 2 turns too late.
Yeah,
that's all right. That's what happens sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't help when your opponent plays red, white, aggressive stuff.
Oh, that's fine. Whatever. That just shows the power of flyers, man.
Yep.
That's what you need.
Yep. No, it was good fun. So, the VOD from that is up on Twitch still. I won't be putting that one up on YouTube. It's not the most exciting content, but
it was good. It was a good time.
Good to watch.
Yeah, we'll probably do it again at some point. It's but we've been streaming more and more paper, and I've been really enjoying it, man. I'm definitely keen to, especially after like looking at modern, and like we played a little bit a couple of weeks ago when we were down at our camp with Chris and stuff, and I got a taste for it again, man. I was like, ooh, this is some powerful, fun stuff that's going on over here.
It's a very different format to the last time we actually went and played a tournament.
Yep, that is true. Some decks are still the same. But, things have shifted around, man, and it looks good, I got to say.
Okay, well, give us a bit of a rundown on what are the current top decks that we're seeing in Modern?
Current top decks. So, I mean, if we don't say rhinos, I think we're doing a disservice. It seems like there's Crashing Footfalls, obviously, broken MH2 card. Thanks, MH2. The Team of Rhinos deck has been really strong for a long time, and then people have started spreading out and going, well, why don't we just add more colours? And the most recent events over the weekend, people were playing the new Leyline Guild Pact, whatever it is, 5-colour nonsense, and putting Scions of Draco in their deck, because why not? So they're just taking domain cards and just shoving it in that. Well, no, it's the other way around, actually. They're taking really good decks and then they're putting like a 12-card package in to facilitate the Rhinos playstyle.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking of it the other way, it's not a Rhinos deck plus, it's the domain deck plus Rhinos. So we're still seeing Scam, didn't go away. We're still seeing Yawgmoth. We're seeing Murktide, Amulet Titan, Tron, Living End is super popular, doing really well at the moment. And Blue-White Control, Shorty, which surprised me to see that that's a thing that people still feel like they need to do with their lives. But
I mean, they've got this little card called the One Ring.
The One Ring
certainly helps that deck.
Yeah. What else? Hammer Time, Burn, always Burn. You know, like, I think it's cool. And if I didn't mention Mono Black Coffers, Mr. Polywaffle would probably fire me. So it's
big fan of that deck.
He loves it. It's really good. It's actually a really strong deck. It plays out differently than you expect just by looking at it. So there's kind of everything, man. Like, you've got tempo decks, you've got beatdown decks, you've got combo decks, you've got control decks. Like, it's the full gamut of Modern again, which it's like the Mr. Burns disease thing where everything is so broken that nothing is. So you just, like, you can't die from any one disease because they're all trying to go through it once and he's in a perfect balance. It feels like there might be that sort of equilibrium. So,
yeah, okay. It does kind of feel a bit like Modern used to be.
Yeah.
When we loved it back in the day. The big difference is we've got Modern Horizons 3 coming up in the next few months, and this is all going to change again.
No.
So
they were heavy. No. There's no cards in MH3 that are going to do anything.
No. Yeah, I mean, the Lord of the Rings set had no impact. The last Modern, no. Those sets have no impact on Modern.
Nothing.
No. All right. So yeah, we did have some regional championships played recently over the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
There was one in Japan, which was taken down by Team of Rhinos.
Mm-hmm.
Top 8 was a few other Team of Rhinos and some Living End. So Cascade is certainly a strong mechanic.
Turns out freed spells are broken.
Yep. I think there's 3 Cascades, 2 Living Ends in the top 8 of that list, and yeah, got taken down by the Rhinos, which is actually surprising. It looks like they beat Living End in the finals, and Living End has a decent matchup.
It does.
It kind of doesn't care about your Rhinos when you're going to just wipe the board and they can't put their Rhinos back into play because they're tokens.
Correct.
So, yeah, obviously I haven't seen coverage from it, don't know how the game's played out, but somehow Rhinos got there in the end.
Yeah.
Looking at the win rate matrix, I think Living End has a 65% win rate against Team of Rhinos. So if you want to check out the win rate matrix, it is mtgdex.net put this up, and they've combined a whole bunch of recent top matches, top events. So there's a huge amount of matches.
19,000
played on here. Yeah,
matches they've recorded, which is a statistically significant number, which is something we don't get a lot of normally in Magic. But this is enough to draw some pretty strong conclusions about what's good and what's not. Obviously, it's not an even representation across everything because, like, Team of Cascade sitting at 51% has got 3,700 matches played, and then you scroll down to some of the others, and they've got like Dimir Control has 127 matches played. So there's some big differences in terms of like sample size, but if a deck is that well represented and performing that well, that tells you it's really, really good. Because it means a bunch of scrubs like us picked it up and played it and it still did well.
Yeah, I've heard there was I heard on a podcast this week someone was saying, I can't remember which tournament it was, but Team of Rhinos was like 20-something% of the meta, which which is a lot. Like that's where Wizard starts usually looking at potential bannings. So
yep.
Yeah, we'll sort of have to see how we go with that. There was an event in the US, regional championships there, which was taken down by Yawgmoth, which we'll have a bit of a look at later. But yeah, a bunch of Cascade Rhinos again in the top 8, as well as Living End and a few Yawgmoth decks. So not that different to the Japan one. And then one in Canada.
Oh boy.
Yeah, which surprisingly was taken down by, as you said, blue-white control, Azorius control. So I guess when you've got a field that is 20% of Rhinos and you've got a 65% win rate against it, you're in a good place. So the top 8 from that one was 5 Team of Rhinos.
Yep.
1 Living End and 2 blue-white controls. So
it is wild. Also, then there's just
nuts.
chilling in 10, 11, 12 is 3 more Rhinos decks.
Yes.
So the Canadians, big fans of these Rhinos.
Yep. So from what I've been hearing about Rhinos, it is everywhere. It is a huge part of the metagame. But it's a deck I've heard a lot of people recommend, if you don't play Modern and you need a deck to play Rhinos. It is a really solid deck and it's not that hard to play. So it's relatively easy to go, okay, here's the deck. I know it's going to do well and just pick it up and go. Whereas a deck like, your Amulet Titans or like Coffers or something along those lines that have some slightly more complicated lines of play. Yeah, Yawgmoth. You're trying to figure out how on earth all those combos work. They're much harder to play. You need to know more about the deck. So I think we're seeing a lot of like this meta percentage, probably higher than it normally would be, because a lot of people would just be picking up that deck because it's being recommended a lot for the RC season.
Sure.
And yeah, whether that's a true indication of, yep, it's 20% of the metagame because it is the best deck, or if it's just, people are picking up because it's easy to play and is really strong. So either way, it's still something that potentially Wizards may need to look at. I don't know. I don't know where their banning philosophies are these days. Do we want to have a look at the Rhinos deck and actually sort of tell people?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
What's in it?
So, I mean, the namesake card is Crashing Footfalls, and it is a 0-mana sorcery with Suspend for green and Suspend 4. When it comes off Suspend, you get 2 4/4 green Rhino creature tokens with Trample. Hence the term Rhinos. So the main thing you're trying to do is either suspend it on turn 1, which you'll actually see a lot. It's not like Living End, which is you're never
suspending it.
Listen, if you suspend, I've done it. It doesn't feel good. It feels real bad.
Yep.
But you're really happy to suspend the first Footfalls and even the second one because the trample body means a lot. There's generally just a lot of smaller creatures kind of going through, and it's really, like we said before, it's kind of a deck that's playing a lot of other stuff and then Rhinos. So Violent Outburst is the other card that you really want to pair with it, which is 1 red-green for an instant with Cascade, and it says creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. It comes up very rarely as a combat trick, but the only thing you can Cascade into is Crashing Footfalls. You're doing that whole thing. So, you typically want to go end of turn, Violent Outburst, put in 2 4/4 Rhinos, attack, untap attack and go from there. So that's kind of the game plan. And then it's really cheating on a lot of other stuff. So it's playing like Dead Gone as a split card and also Fire Ice as split cards. So they technically cost more than 3 mana, which is the deal with Cascade spells. Anything that costs 2 or less, if you cast a 3, you would cast. But, Fire Ice they're 2 mana cards effectively, but because of the way that the rules changed a while ago, they are now a 4 mana card for Fire Ice, even though you can pay 2 mana. Same with Dead Gone. Dead use like 1 mana and Gone is 3, so the total mana value is 4, but you can pay just red to shock something, but you would never play shock in this deck. The other thing you've got is Shardless Agent, which is 1 green blue, for a 2/2 with Cascade as well. So same thing, you can cast a Shardless on turn 2, and then you've got, 10 power on turn 3, effectively, with, in play. to attack the next turn. Playing a bunch of extra free spells because Subtlety and Force of Negation are both really strong. Dismember's practically free. It's just life, Shorty. Who cares? You start Modern on 15 anyway.
Exactly.
And then Lorien Revealed seeing its way into this deck as well as an island cycler, which is pretty good. So just really looking to control early. And there's different lists. This is like the very traditional kind of teamer style is the way I would see this one, where they're, really just looking to footfalls all the time. Whereas some of the other lists we were talking about, the 4 and 5 color ones are other decks with just the little package going in here. But, Subtlety, Murktide, 3 copies of Tashana's Tidebinder, which is more than I would have expected. And then Flame of Anor as another card that just does a lot of work. You can draw 2 cards, you can destroy an artifact, or you can deal 5 to a creature. So you can kill things that like Shieldred or, like just big other scary things at really efficient rates. It's kind of the main bits there.
Yeah, it is just it's a very consistent deck.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to, as you know from Living End, being able to Violent Outburst at instant speed is huge in this deck. Being able to end of your turn, like you're basically holding up counter spells and Tashana's Tidebinders and things like that, and then end of turn, you didn't play anything that I need to worry about, so I'm just going to flash in my Violent Outburst, put in the two 4/4 tramplers, untap and start bashing you. And
yep,
yeah, they're kind of hard. Like you kind of think initially, you think, okay, yeah, they're just 2 4/4s. Like who cares? The trample is massive, and if you've been dealing with what they've got on the board, then it's just going to add up. Like that damage is just going to pile up over time, and it's going to win the game. So, and it's not doing anything crazy complicated. So you can see why it's easy for people to pick up and just sort of jam this deck. So yeah, the deck that we were sort of saying before is good against it is the Living End deck, which you've played a lot of over time.
Back in the day, before it was good.
Very different to this current version.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same game plan.
So I played this against Chris over Christmas, and oh boy, was this! It was way stronger than what you used to play.
It's pretty fun.
So if you've never played Living End before, it is same sort of thing. It's a spell that has no mana cost. It's got suspend 3 for 2 black, and it basically says that all the creatures that are in play end up in the graveyard, and all creatures that are in the graveyard end up in play.
Yep.
So you're just cycling. Your deck is just full of so many creatures that are usually cycling for 1 mana or free in Street Wraiths, or griefs and subtleties that you can play for free, like evoke for free and then just put in the graveyard, which is so much fun. And then just ways to cascade into your Living End.
Yeah.
So same sort of game plan, but super powerful, especially when you can do it at instant speed and just put like 30 power on the battlefield at the end of your opponent's turn.
It feels pretty great. It, like, playing with grief just feels disgusting. It's like, I'm going to grief your counter spell, Living End, grief your removal spell. Just like you just rip people's hands apart super quick, and then you've just got, oh, look, I've got 18 power. And you're like, oh, that's a medium-sized Living End, I guess. Like
with a bunch of triggers when they enter the battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's interesting because, like, I've been playing this deck for 10 years, something like that, I reckon.
Yeah, more than that.
Yeah, a long time. And so, like, it started out that Architects of Will was like one of the cards that you used to play, and then it got cut because it just didn't quite have the power level anymore, and then it's back because it's better colors, and it turns out
pitches to grief and subtlety.
It pitches to grief and subtlety
and force negation.
And force negation. Exactly. It does all of those things. And then, like, stacking your opponent's deck, like, you just get to ponder their deck. You put the top 3 cards back in any order. Like, it feels disgusting. You're just like,
it's pretty rude.
You can have a land and a land and you spell 3 cards down and have fun. So yeah, this deck is, it's actually got like, my biases aside, a very, very strong overall win rate. It's actually very well positioned at the moment because there's just a lot of graveyard hate running around. And that is the thing. Like, this deck can be beaten with dedicated, graveyard hate. But I mean, a lot of the sideboard is like, you've got Besaiju's and Foundation Breakers and Force of Vigors and all that sort of stuff to fight the different types of Graveyard Hate. And sometimes you just cast big dumb things for 6 mana and win the game that way.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it is much more resilient than it was previously. And Living End's always kind of been similar to Dredge, where if people don't respect it and they're not packing a bunch of Graveyard Hate in their sideboard, then the deck is super powerful. And there just isn't that much Graveyard Hate at the moment, and this version of the deck now just has so many answers, uncounterable answers like Besaiju's.
Well, yeah, but you just grief them and force negation and all that sort of stuff. Like you can deal with it before it even hits the battlefield.
Yep.
So
like you go turn 1 grief. Oh, you've got one of your sideboard Graveyard Hates in your hand. Okay, cool. Well, that's gone. Yep. Do you have another one? No? Okay, well, I'm going to win this game.
I guess I win.
Cool. Yep. So, very strong deck. One of the other decks that took down one of the RCs, Yawgmoth. You've played this deck? I think you were playing it over Christmas.
I played it so well. I played it. I was playing against Cuball, who's one of my mates and hangs out in the Discord a bunch, and trying to wrap my head around it because, I know it's good, and it's not straightforward. It's just understanding the pieces. There's so many different lines that you can take, and it's one of those decks that I think if you just dedicate the time to get the expertise, then it's really good. So you can go infinite, right, with a
bunch of different ways.
Yeah, a bunch of different ways. There's lots of different infinites, but the main one is you've got 2 undying creatures and a Yawgmoth, and then a sacrifice outlet. So it feels like a lot of pieces, but you also have Court of Calling to go and find stuff, when Eldritch Evolution to get stuff, and it just and also Agatha's Soul Cauldron is another huge that's the change to this deck.
The big thing that it's picked up lately, and that's I think that's added to the complexity of the deck
for
as
sure.
well.
Yeah. So, but sometimes you just cast Children and win that way. You can quite often it's just the green black beatdown deck that's a little underpowered, but you're kind of scared as the opponent as to can they just win here? I don't know.
Yeah. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, well, I think we spoke about it when it came out, but just to sort of read it again for people, because it is very confusing. It's a 2-mana legendary artifact that's got, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. I don't know how relevant that is. Creatures you control, this is where we start to get relevant. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And you can tap it to exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So, yeah, you can put your combo pieces in the graveyard, either putting them there whichever way works to get them there, or they just get killed, and then you can just exile them with your Soul Cauldron, and every creature that has a +1/+1 counter on it, which you get your, young wolves. They come back in with +1/+1 counters. So does the Geist, Strangleroot Geist, those sorts of things. The undying creatures are coming back in with +1/+1 counters, so they get the abilities. One of the most confusing things with this deck is Grist the Hunger Tide. How does that work with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Cracker?
Well, I hate Grist. It breaks too many things. It is a creature. Grist is a planeswalker, but it's a creature when it's anywhere but on the battlefield. So in the graveyard, it is a creature. And so then if you exile it under Agatha's Soul Cauldron, you have a young wolf that enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Oh, now it's got all of Grist's loyalty abilities as well. So you can +1 on your young wolf to make an insect token to, I don't know, man. It's weird. It's just like holding up Spell Pierce when you're playing Murktide. You're like, haha, got him. And you go to Spell Pierce there. Grist, the planeswalker, that's the creature.
Not a creature, not a planeswalker on the stack.
Not a planeswalker on the stack. Nope, get wrecked. Yeah, it's very strange. It also means that you can chord for it too. And obviously it's a removal spell, so you can sacrifice another creature. And if you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. You're not likely to use its ultimate, but yeah, it's kind of weird that it works that way.
Yeah, very very strange card. I remember this is an MH2 card, and I remember when it got previewed, it was like, oh, that's really weird. And then it's not till 3 months down the track that people are still figuring out weird interactions with this card, and just the common sense things like you were saying before, like countering this spell. It's not a non-creature spell. Like, you can't negate it. It is a creature on the stack and everywhere else, and very, very confusing. And if you've got a Soul Cauldron and you've got four creatures out with +1/+1 on counters, well, now you have 4 Grists that can activate all their abilities, and
or they're like Wall of Roots, or they're Yawgmoths, or they're like Noble Hierarchs or Haywire Mites, or like there's just a bunch of different stuff. So it's it's good when you've got one creature that has a +1/+1 counter on it. It is then a Grist, so it gets a loyalty counter on it. It can also be a Wall of Roots that gets a -0/-1 counter on it. So you've got to keep track of your 3 different counters going on this one creature, because they're all different. Good. Yep. And also they're playing like the full contingent of Bowmasters.
Yeah,
which makes Orc armies, which then get +1/+1 counters on them.
Yes. Yep.
So you can
that is very true.
Cast a Bowmaster, and then you've instantly got your
a masses one, which makes
masses one
token.
Yep, makes a 0/0 with a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, exactly right.
Yep.
So you can immediately do things there, which is pretty strong.
Yep. Delighted Halfling, which we've seen from the Lord of the Rings set, which we were talking about before. Yep, very, very, very strong card. Makes your Yawgmoth uncounterable or your Grist uncounterable. So, and just toolboxing it up with your Quarter Callings and Eldritch Evolutions, as you said before, so you can get what you need, and a whole bunch of one-ofs. Things like you can side in a Fulminator Mage, Cracker, and then you can exile a Fulminator Mage under your Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and then just go to town and blow up everyone's lands.
I did enjoy that very much as a living end player. Just beast within people's lands and Fulminator Mage there.
Yep.
The bad land destruction combo. Anyway. So what else are we seeing? We should talk about blue-white control, I guess.
Yeah, we can have a look at the blue-white control list that actually managed to take down the tournament.
It won in Canada, beating out a bunch of, like we said, a bunch of the Rhinos decks.
Yep.
So it's interesting. So it's like winless. Win-conless almost, right? I mean, we've got, I suppose that technically there's 8 creatures. So you've got 4.
There's a Kahira.
Oh, you're right.
In the sideboard.
Yeah, no,
that's how you win the game.
Yep, no, good point. Missed that. Thank you.
Yep.
You've also got 4 Subtlety, 4 Solitude. And then you can just resolve it to Fairy, and I'll scoop. I was just thinking, though, I was trying to look at like what it does. So it's playing like Subtlety. That's just both of them. Subtlety and Solitude, Reprieve, Prismatic Ending, Supreme Verdicts, Warren Revealed, 4 Narset, Parter of Veils, which is bold, 3 Fairy Time Raveler, 4 One Ring, 4 Leyline Bindings, and 2 Days Undoing. So, Shorty, I was thinking that you could plush it to Fairy, and then in your opponent's upkeep, flash in a Days Undoing with a Narset.
With a Narset, yep.
And then
who would do that, Cracker?
Well, listen.
Who Narset wheels people? Who would ever do that?
Yes, me. But doing it in someone's draw step, that just feels kind of next level dirty. So, Days Undoing, in case people don't know, it's 2 and a blue for each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. If it's your turn, end the turn. But, if you do it with Narset in play, then they just get to draw 1 card.
Yep.
And then that's it.
Playing 4 Reprieve, which we were unsure if we were going to see this card pop up. And interesting that they're playing. So 4 Reprieve is the new Remand, but it's white, and slightly different. We're wondering if we're going to see this. And obviously people have decided, well, it's, I guess, technically better than Remand. You can't.
It is.
Mystical Dispute it.
Yep.
And
it also gets around like Delighted Halfling and things because you're not actually countering the spell, so you're just returning it, which is the big difference. Whereas Remand says counter target spell, return it to its owner's hand instead. Effectively. Yep. Whereas this just says return target spell to its owner's hand, draw a card.
Yep.
As a Rhinos player, actually as a living end player, I've had my living end remanded once. Oh, it felt gross. So doing that to a Rhinos player would feel pretty good, I must admit. Because, So they're just doing that and then, just verdicting and I guess eventually just winning
Just
with
winning that
whatever.
slow, long, boring game.
It's just a full blue-white Cheon's deck, man.
Yep. Just bring Kahira in from your companion zone and just slowly kill people.
Yep.
Because that's what you do.
All right, enough about this because I'm falling asleep.
Well, let's talk about another deck that no one loves, Rakdos Scam. So the last round of modern bannings were meant to fix this deck, and they banned
it's nowhere. It's
Fury.
terrible. Yep.
And it's still the second most played deck in the metagame, and it hasn't really changed. So
pretty much.
It's just the same stuff that we've been seeing for ages with Griefs, Shouldereds, Bowmasters, Croxes, Dorothy, Douthie, however you say that one, Voidwalkers and Ragavans, and then just all the good, cheap, red black spells.
Yep.
Interesting.
I don't know what there is to say about this deck. I'm glad that it didn't vanish completely. I think that I think it was actually a good nerf.
Yeah, I think getting rid of Grief would have been better, but
probably. Even though I want to play in Living End, I think it would have been better for the format in general.
Yeah, and I think that was the general consensus. Everybody sort of thought that would be better for the format, but they've downsized on the scam package. So I think they used to play like 8, maybe 9 of the scam cards, whereas this list I'm looking at is now running 4 Not Dead After All and 1 Undying Evil, and that's it for griefing, bringing it back, and double griefing people because everyone loves that on turn 1.
It's true. Yep.
But yeah, solid deck. I mean, it is the new Jund, basically.
Yep.
But actually quite good. Looking at the win rate matrix, it is a 48% overall deck.
Yeah, new Jund.
Yep. Has some good matchups, has some quite bad matchups. So, not surprised to see it at 48%. And people will still play it. It will still be super high in the metagame.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are on the rise and actually doing well, Domain Zoo, you mentioned it before.
Yeah, Zoo. Just full 5-color, doing the Tribal Flames thing. So Wild Nikado, Nishobi Brawler, Bowmasters, Territorial Kavus. I mean, these are all just like cards that get like Territorial Kavu, red-green for a star. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of basic lands among lands you control. And then when it attacks, you discard a card if you do draw a card or exile a card from a graveyard. So just real big. And then the main draw for this is the Scion of Draco. So 12 mana 4/4, Shorty.
That's a reasonable rate.
That is an excellent.
Flying.
It does have flying. That's true. It also has, this spell costs 2 generic less to cast for each basic land type among lands you control. So, triomes make it really challenging to get to
we've never seen Leyline Bindings played for 1 mana.
No, never. So, Scion of Draco also says each creature you control has vigilance if it's white, hexproof if it's blue, lifelink if it's black, first strike if it's red, and trample if it's green. Now, the particular list I'm looking at Goldfish doesn't have the new Leyline.
Okay, but the one I am does. There's a link in there.
Right. Show note. But yeah, they're playing that now to just have the stone nuts. So that all, because it doesn't say this creature, it says each creature you control.
Yep. Yeah. So the card Cracker's talking about is the Leyline of the Guild Pack, which is from the most recent set, which is 4 mana. It's a whole bunch of hybrid mana, so you can play it for 4 green, but it's also got blue, white, black, and red. And it's got the sort of traditional Leyline text, whereas if it's in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. And then it says, each non-land permanent you control is all colours, and lands you control are every basic land type in addition to the other types. So you start the game with this in play. All your lands are now 5-colour lands, even if they're fetch lands. You just play a fetch land and it can tap for all 5 colours. It makes your Leyline Bindings, which this is playing 4 of, just cost a single white mana, so you can now Leyline Binding on turn 1. And your Scion of Draco, that previously cost you 12 mana, now costs you 2, and because it makes the Leyline of the Guild Pack makes all your non-land permanents all colours, it means all your creatures are all colours, and so they all get Vigilance, Hexproof, Lifelink, First Strike, and Trample, which is pretty good.
Yep.
So this sort of came out, when this card was previewed, people sort of came out and went, oh, yeah, this is going to be cool in this deck, and everyone kind of fobbed it off as, yeah, it's pretty gimmicky. But this deck's been around for a while. Like, Azzy G was playing this deck at the last Modern tournament that we all played in, and doing very well with it. So the deck has been around for a while and has been doing quite well, and now it's like you just supercharged it with the ley line.
Yep.
So not surprised to see it getting play and doing pretty well. I think it has some pretty good win rates too.
Yeah, that does. It seems really, really strong. And like I was saying before, people have now just taken this shell and they're putting in the Rhinos package into it. They're just putting in, 8, 12 cards or whatever it is, and then that's it. They've just got the whole thing going on, which is pretty nutty, giving all your... I mean, if trampling Rhinos were good, giving them First Strike and Lifelink and whatever else hexproof. Strict upgrades, Shorty.
Yes.
More keywords, more better.
Well, conveniently, Scion of Draco costs 12, so that is definitely above the Cascade threshold that we're trying to get past.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so going to be interesting to see how that deck goes, and I'm tipping we get a bunch of people tuning that over the next few weeks and months and sort of heading into the PT.
Yes.
But very, very cool deck, and good to see that you get one random card out of nowhere. Like this card, looking at the price, this card is like $21 US for a rare from the current standard set. Like, I mean, the thing with the ley lines like this is you're almost always playing them as a 4 of, so it's going to bump those prices up.
It sure is. It sure is. Yeah, Scion of Draco has gone up a bunch as well in terms of its cost.
Yeah, yep.
To the surprise of nobody. But yeah, it was interesting because like a bunch of like LSV and a bunch of other pros were doing the whole Rhinos thing, and then they're like, hey, need some of these cards. It's like, what? So we talked about that, but the that version had a like 60% win rate.
Yeah, it did.
Over the weekend. This 4-color Cascade, I think it's called. So
yeah, 62%. 320 matches, so not as big of a sample size, but yeah, 62% win rate, whereas the regular one was 53%.
51, yeah.
So,
So, yeah, 10% more, 11% more. That's a lot. But obviously, literally 10% of the match size sample. So,
yep.
Yeah.
You also have surprise factor where it's like, your opponent goes, oh, you're playing Cascade. Okay, cool. I'll play this way. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on. You've got a Scion of Draco and all this other stuff going on. So
your Ragavan does what? They're playing Ragavan, but yes. All sorts of interesting things coming out there. What else?
Murktide Regent. You've played a decent chunk of this. Yep.
Yeah. Love it. I mean, it feels old now.
It does.
Which feels weird to say, but it's also like just really good. Murktide is a hell of a card.
It's really good at having a 50% win rate.
Yep. It's very, very fair.
Yep.
Like, it's weird to say that Murktide Region is a fair card, but like you are just trying to 1-for-1 people a bunch and then get ahead with like iterations or something like that, and hopefully maybe cheese a couple of cards with Ragavan and things, but like leading, you've done it, like leading on Dragon's Rage Channeler into Mishra's Bauble on turn 1, you feel pretty smart.
Yeah,
like it just looks at a lot of cards and it does its thing very consistently. Whether that thing is good enough, well, it is about half the time.
Yeah. It's literally good enough half the time. And that's my experience playing with Murktide too. Like, you've got some removals, counter spells, and some goodies, and sometimes you can play a 2-mana 8/8 flyer that gets bigger over time, and you go, this is great, but sometimes it just doesn't line up. You have the removals, you don't want the removal spells, you want counter spells, and then sometimes they resolve things because you just didn't have the counters, and then your removal doesn't line up, and you finally play a Murktide, and then they, vapor snag it to your hand or whatever. Like, very easy removal will just bounce it back to your hand, and that's it. Your Murktide's gone, and your graveyard's gone, and you just kind of do nothing. So, Yeah, it does. It does.
Yep.
Exactly what you said. It does feel old. It feels like it needs something new and powerful that's probably going to be Modern Horizons 3 to sort of spice it up a bit, or just something else to format to make it a little bit better.
Yep, exactly right. Andrea Mengucci will tell you that it's always the right deck to play.
Whether that's true or not.
Doesn't matter. That's what he's telling you.
Yep. So some other decks in the format. Amulet Titan hasn't really changed much in ages. It's playing the One Ring now, but it's effectively the same as it's been a few years, really.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, they got Dry to Releasing Grove a few years ago, but
Cultivated Colossus was the other one
much.
that was probably one of the more recent additions. And then, obviously the One Ring as well. People who love it. I've tried playing this deck as well. And, so here's the thing. I'm going to say something controversial.
Ooh, okay.
I don't think this deck is as hard as everyone makes it out to be.
Ooh, okay.
Everyone talks about it being the hardest deck in the format and just like incomprehensibly complicated, and you need to read the 50-page primer and all this. You don't. You need to count to 6 and cast Primeval Titan.
And you just play one land a turn, and then you tap all of them when you have 6, and you play a Primeval Titan.
Exactly. Like, once you've gone through the loops a couple of times, it's actually not stupid hard. Like, you're doing the same thing. Like, I think people try and get overly cute with it. It's just like, no, you don't need to. Just get Sunhome and Slayer's Stronghold with a Boros Garrison, and you just 18 double strike. Let's go. What are you going to do? I got Trample. Get out of here. Like, they killed it. All right, cool. I'll just cast a Titan again next turn and do it again. Like, the deck is quite redundant in that respect. Like, it's very consistent. It ramps super hard, and if you cast the ring, you're like, I don't know. I know, I'm not downplaying that there are some crazy corner case things you can do, and you can get all fancy with it, but I just don't think you need to, man. Like, you play a Grazer on turn 1, and then you put in your Urza Saga off your Grazer, and then you're off. you just play a Azusa the following turn, you play 2 more lands, and how do you lose? You've got 45 mana on turn 4. All right. There's my
according to the win rate matrix, it is also 49%. So.
Yeah, because people are trying to get too fancy.
Clearly, people need to listen to Primer.
I mean,
forget the 50 pages.
Exactly. Just cast Primetime, man. Don't worry about it. People are going to scoop to that thing anyway. Except when they've got Leyline Binding, and then they're just giggling at you. But anyway.
Another deck that hasn't really changed much is the 4-color Omnath deck. It's kind of been the same for a while.
It also feels old,
the One Ring,
man.
Like it picked up the One Ring, which we knew, like, as soon as One Ring was spoiled, it was, this is going to get played in 4-color Omnath, just goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of feels like it's not super strong, not really doing
it feels like
there.
Fury made this worse than it made Rakdos. I think that this nerfed the power level of this deck overall.
That wouldn't surprise me. It can a bit of a rough matchup against some of the aggro decks if it gets its slow starts, but Fury.
I mean, if you get to stick Omnath and it hangs about for a couple of turns and you get to cast lands, like, it is powerful. Like, there's no question. I mean, it was dominant for a long time in terms of the format, right? Like, it was problematic for a little bit, I think you could say, but it just hasn't had any tools or evolved at all. And it's just like, well, what are you going to do? Like, Rhinos is just going to control the board better and, like, go over the top of you, and, the domain's just bigger. So, I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like it's kind of missing something. Yep. Same with Tron.
Do you want to black coffers?
Yeah, we can talk about coffers. Yeah, Tron is doing its thing. It's horrible as far as win rate.
Yeah.
It's 45%.
It has a horrible mono buffer jump.
It sure does. So, we've talked about coffers before, because Chris is obviously a big fan, Polywaffle. It's doing Cabal coffers and Urborg, right? It's trying to do that kind of massive mana engine. It's weird because it doesn't look like it. If you look at it and go, well, it's called coffers, so it's a ramp deck. It's not. It's a mono black control deck.
Yeah.
And if you play it like a mono black control deck, just leveraging the ring, and think, I will eventually find my win condition. I will find, in this case, Emrakul the Promise End is one of the things it's trying to do, right? Or you just shieldred people or whatever. Like, if you play it out that way, the deck is very strong. If you play it incorrectly, thinking that you've got to, get on the board and, you're just trying to ramp super hard, it will not perform the way you want it to. And I think that might be just a fundamental misunderstanding from, like, how people play it. But I mean, it's got Damnation and Thoughtseize and, Profane Shooters and stuff. So it's got a bunch of, like, interesting cards.
Yeah.
And it's a Karn deck as well, is the other thing. You've got 4 Karns. So you're really getting those out early and then just finding what's the thing I need? Is it a leveler? Is it a ring? Is it a chalice or explosives? Like, it's got that whole full package. Like, the only card I can see that you can't fetch is Collective Brutality in the sideboard here. Everything else you can just go and get. I tell you what, I want to see Chris fetch a Sundering Titan against someone playing Domain with a ley line in play. Because you just get to blow up all of their lands. That seems pretty good. So this deck is legitimately good.
Yeah, getting to play like 7 or 8 Field of Ruin, Demolition Field effects can just be so strong. Like it doesn't affect basically at all. And just being able to blow up your opponent's hands at will effectively is pretty rough. Yeah, it just kind of feels like the version of Tron now. Like Tron is dedicated to finding Tron, whereas this deck's just like, I can just play like you said, a control game and slow down what you're doing, and then eventually I'm going to have stupid mana like Tron would have and just do big things as well. So just seems better.
Yeah. Actually, what one of the cards that has made the biggest difference to this deck is Sunken Citadel. So that's from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and it's a land, enters tapped. As it enters tapped, you choose a color. So obviously you choose black. It taps for 1 mana of that color, or it says tap, add 2 mana of the chosen color, spend this mana only to activate abilities of land sources. So that means your Demolition Field doesn't cost you 2 mana, it just costs you a Citadel plus the Demolition Field.
Yep.
Same with your Field of Ruin, and also same with the coffers. So rather than having to tap 2 to activate coffers, it costs you 1. So it's a huge difference in terms of like how quickly you can start leveraging these things. It puts your full turn in front in some ways, or it lets you effectively double spell, right? You can hit someone's Triome or, whatever it is that they've got that you need to try and cut them off a color at the same time as, casting a Fatal Push or a Thoughtseize or something like that. And so a really, really big pickup in that respect for this deck.
A couple other decks, just to sort of quickly, we've seen, bit of hammer time, like the decks that have been floating around for a while. Creativity was still in the format, going and getting Archon of Cruelties, but once the One Ring sort of started rising up, that became a big issue for this deck because it gave you protection from everything. It meant fetching your Archons, which if you don't know is a 8 mana 6/6 with flyer, but when it or attacks, target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, discards a card and loses 3 life, and then you draw a card and gain 3 life. Well, when your opponent has played a 1 and has protection from everything, this thing does not much. So, that's sort of dropped. The One Ring seems to have dropped down and he's not getting as played quite as much, although the blue-white control lists will beg to differ. So, I think there was a potential for Creativity to come back, but maybe not now with the way the metagame is looking. Got your usual Burn and Death Shadow and those sorts of things.
Wait, there's one more deck that we have to talk about. Assault Loam. I'm assuming you heard.
Yep.
So this is a throwback to very old Magic.
Yep.
Seismic Assault is red for an enchantment. It says discard a land card from your hand. Seismic Assault deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Sure. And then you've got Life from the Loam, which is 1 and a green. Return up to 3 target lands from your graveyard to your hand, and it has Dredge 3, which is a replacement effect. And instead of drawing a card, you put this in your hand, and then you mill the top 3 cards of your deck into your graveyard. I'm sure you heard the same podcast I did. There were some people, Jerry T's podcast.
he
was very excited.
Probably a little bit wiggled.
a couple of weeks ago, very excited about this deck. He's like, it's broken. It's the best deck in the format. No one knows what to do. No one knows how to, but yeah, it's got like a 30% win rate. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows what to do. And the answer is just ignore it. But it's kind of cool that, you know, there's still some old stuff you can find. Cards from Seismic's 8th edition. It's like when I started playing. It's just white borders, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. It was a deck in standard from memory. Or maybe it was extended or something.
No, I used to play it with the Swans of Bryn Argol.
Yeah, Swans.
And you could throw lands at your Swans and then draw cards and I don't know, win eventually. Anyway, if that's what you want to do, you're allowed to cast Seismic Assault in Modern again.
Yeah, like I said at the start, Modern kind of feels like it used to be in that it is super wide open. There is a lot of decks you can play, but the format's going to get massively shaken up when the H3 set comes out, and that still doesn't sit well. Like looking at the prices of these decks, most are over $1,000 US, and when a new set's going to come out every year that's got potential real deck, then I don't really like that. Fun format. It's fun to play when we can just borrow all the cards. Makes it easy.
Yeah, that is the truth. Yep, for sure.
All right, well, that's going to do us for the Modern Chat and wrap up the podcast. So, usual links door. Just go to Magic Beans Cast. We'll find links for everything, merch store, Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, all that sort of stuff. Find us on all the various YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all that sort of thing. So just go magicbeanscast.com and find us. Don't forget the Envy will be happening on Saturday, the 2nd of March. So that's 3 weeks away. 2 weeks away. That's
finally.
2.5 weeks away.
3 months late. Oh,
not long now. So make sure you've got that in your diary because it's going to be a cool stream, a ton of giveaways, and we'll get to see our 2023 champion. Will we have a back-to-back champion? That'll be interesting once we get there. Yeah, who knows? All right. If you'd like to find me on Twitter, I'm at PSync. Yeah. If they want to find you are?
At JoelHill_.
Very good. So that's going to do us for this week. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.